What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, just another PokeTuber, Coach of V, coach of your Virginia Beach Whimsicots. Gotta get used to saying that. But anyway, we're the coach of your Virginia Beach Whimsicots. It's your boy, just another PokeTuber, and I'm coming at you today with our Season 1 draft analysis for BHDL Champions Division. If you watched my draft analysis for the Scarlet and Violet Division, you probably noticed me saying this is my draft analysis for the SV Division, and like I said in that video, there's a reason for us saying that, and this is the reason. So this season of BHDL, we decided to do two separate divisions, one for champions, one for singles, and this is season 1. So even though I'm the defending champion of the SV, there is no champion of this division because, well, this is our first time participating in it, so we have no champion yet. And so in other words, hopefully we can be the first champion of the BHDL Champions Division while also defending our title in SV. That would be pretty cool, not gonna lie. So I know some of you guys are probably wondering, how would a Champions Division of BHDL be ran? Well, we were gifted 105 points to draft exactly 10 Pokemon, no more, no less. We were gifted the ability to have 1 to 3 Mega Captains. This will be an 8-week season and then playoffs, so expect to see us for the next 11 weeks. You know how it goes. Uploads are not required. However, clearly since we're making this video, and I'm pretty sure you peeped the thumbnail. If you haven't, I think you should really look at the thumbnail, by the way. We're going to be uploading, and then this is going to be a 12-man pool where the top 6 make playoffs and the top 2 get a bye, which basically just keeps things very competitive. Your boy ended up as number 2 in the overall draft pick, which is probably my highest ever placing in BHDL now that I think about it. So we were after Mr. Mag, a familiar face, and then we also had some other familiar faces like Zachmander, Rolder, Abomination, Twisted Games, Emerald Miner, Lazy Boy, Scorpion, and Fornable. We've never been in a draft with Rickstar or Tony Torkoal. I've played Tony Torkoal in Smogon, just not in draft, and I've never played Rickstar at all. However, nice to have you guys into the league, and I'm looking forward to a very fun season because all these guys are good coaches. They're very fun guys to play against. So like I said, we're looking forward to it. So I've gone over the rules, I've gone over the draft, so I might as well get into my draft picks, right? So Mr. Mag drafted Mega Froslass round 1. The reason I feel the need to inform you guys of that is so you understand. I had access to every Pokemon except for Mega Froslass as my first round pick. There's one Pokemon in particular that I've told myself time and time again, the moment you are added into Champions, I am going to draft you no matter what. Come hell or high water, I'm going to draft this Mon because I think this Mon is just downright phenomenal. It's a demon. It's my favorite Mega, by the way. In my opinion, I feel like it has an argument for being, well, I feel like it's a stretch to call it the strongest Mega, even with my biases, but I feel like it definitely is contention for being like one of the top 5 Megas in the game, in my opinion. So without further ado, my first round draft pick was none other than So yes, for our round 1 draft pick, we decided to pick up none other than Mega Mawile for the first time ever. I've been wanting to use this mon for the longest of times. We have a shiny Mega Mawile that I hunted all the way back in Legend ZA that I nicknamed Sage. I nicknamed it Sage for a few reasons. One of the biggest reasons, for some reason, this mon makes me think of the character Sage from the Sonic franchise. If you know, you know. And also, I remember Mawile battling a Mega Lucario, and the Mawile, this is what we really like it. I remember Mawile just looking so sweaty in that fight, like Lucario just really couldn't do anything to it, and you're just getting bodied by the freaking Mawile. And yeah, so it just gave me the impression of a Sage, like a fighting master, which really fits because of its ability Huge Power, which doubles its attack stat, which by the way is base 105. However, I want you guys to understand something. It doesn't double in the sense that, oh, 105 becomes 210. It doesn't double that way. Instead, whatever you invest, like whatever you whenever you max out this thing's like whatever its attack stat is, you can look at it like in the game and multiply that by 2, which is going to be a lot higher than 210. I can promise you that. And this mon is also pretty bulky with 125 defense and 95 spit F. However, the bulk is somewhat held back by the fact that it has 50 HP. However, I feel like that's more so meant to help balance the Pokemon, because from using it, I can say that even though the HP is low, Mawile does take hits pretty well. Like it's very uncommon to see this thing get one-shotted, especially since it has the ability Intimidate before it Mega Evolves, which is really beneficial because this meta has a lot of physical attackers. So you can use Intimidate to mitigate some damage. It also gets Hyper Cutter before it Mega Evolves, which basically prevents us from being intimidated. So depending on the situation, we can get away with running either or. This Pokemon has base 50 speed, which is actually perfect for running it in Trick Room as well as running it in Tailwind, because you can EV it to outspeed things like Aerodactyl, for example, who's the fastest mon in the game, if I'm not mistaken. So Mawile is a very strong offensive Pokemon because the ability Huge Power. Some moves you would expect to run on Mawile would be, for example, its most used fairy move, which is Play Rough. You can use Play Rough. Play Rough actually one-shots every fairy in the game, as far as I know, except for like maybe a Mega Meganium or something like that. But if you do for some reason find a bulky fairy, you also have access to the move Iron Head to make use of your second stab, because this is a fairy steel type, so basically the best like typing in the game. If we're being real, the only typing that would be theoretically better in my opinion is maybe Fire Fairy, but that doesn't exist yet. No, or is it Fairy Ground? No, Fire Fairy, Fairy Ground, one of the dang two. But anyway, that's neither here or there. This mon also has priority in the form of Sucker Punch, which we can really use to help like pick off like things that are like already chipped. We also have Rock Slide for spread damage, and last but not least, you can expect to find Protect on Mawile. Now sometimes you might run a knockoff over Sucker Punch just to avoid like 50-50 mind games, but it just depends on the situation. But anyway, we're happy to have Mawile on the team. It's a mon I've really been looking forward to using. So Mawile is a Pokemon you typically want to have a good Trick Room setter with. I wanted for Rigorath, it got taken, so unfortunately we couldn't get it, so I decided to go with what I feel like is the next best thing, at least in this format, which is none other than Oranguru, who we nicknamed Kong, by the way. So we have Oranguru, who is he's mainly a Trick Room setter, but he is like a deceptively like really good Pokemon. So Oranguru is pretty bulky with 90 HP, 80 defense, and 110 spit F, and it also can hit pretty hard, well not pretty hard, but decently well with 90 special attack. And because of the 60 speed, it can also benefit from Trick Room, which by the way, is one of the moves it is most known for clicking, Trick Room. This Pokemon also has access to the move Instruct, which is, in my opinion, even better than having like Helping Hand on for Rigorath, because when you click Helping Hand, it technically gives your Pokemon like a Choice Band or a Choice Specs boost for a turn. If you click Instruct and actually land all your moves, technically it's like clicking Swords Dance or Nasty Plot for a turn and then getting the boost. That's technically what's happening if we really think about it, right? This Pokemon also has access to the move Psychic Terrain, which we can use to help prevent priority moves targeted into my Mawile, in particular Fake Outs. And then we also have access to, like the main attacking moves this guy would use would be like Foul Play, so you can damage other, this meta is very physical, so Foul Play does a lot of damage to actually a lot of stuff. And then last but not least, you also get Psychic Noise, which I feel like is really good for like healing shenanigans. Sinisha, I'm looking at you. But yeah, that is Oranguru. Looking forward to having him on the team. Really just here to be our Trick Room bot. So, as I mentioned before, Mawile can function under Trick Room as well as under Tailwind, so I decided for our next round, let's pick the best Tailwinder that was available. I really wanted Talonflame. It got taken, so I decided to go with the next best thing in the form of Pelipper, because as you can also imagine by this point, Whimsicott was also gone, so we have Pelipper on the team, so we're using Taxi again. So yes, we're drafting Rain again. I know some of you guys are probably hoping to see me use some different stuff. Well, it's hard when you keep getting sniped. That's all I can say about that one. But you know, you guys seen us with Taxi, so hopefully you're happy to see us again. So Taxi's a pretty like he can do it all. So homie is bulky as well as offensive, 95 special attack with 100 defense and 70 spit F. HP kind of holds it back, but from using this mod I can tell it's really good at taking hits. Because of the 65 speed, it can actually function in Trick Room as well as in Tailwind. It just depends on what mode we want to go with that week. Some things you can expect from Pelipper are, for example, it likes to click Weather Ball because it can set the weather and then immediately take advantage of it. Weather Ball is actually very strong from this Pokemon, and since it is setting the rain, you also get Hurricane, which never misses in the rain, by the way. And as I also mentioned, this is my Tailwind guy, so of course, we get Tailwind. Something else that makes Pelipper really good, he also gets Wide Guard, which we can use to block spread moves, which, you know, for example, if we fight the Charizard and they don't run like Weather Ball, they might not be able to touch them all things considered. We also have access to the move Muddy Water, which we can use to lower the accuracy on other Pokemon, so basically help us live longer. And then last but not least, we also have access to the move Roost that could potentially give our Pelipper longevity if we ever feel the need to use it. But yeah, Pelipper is mainly here for Tailwinds and just overall being a supportive offensive Pokemon, which we really appreciate on the team. Now, for the next couple of rounds, I really wanted to get some fast offensive guys and maybe even get my Fake Out Mon. Spoiler alert, we don't do that this round, but we do get our fast guy in the form of... We got Meowscarada, who we nicknamed Genesis. However, we might also use Pokemaster 88. We have a shiny Meowscarada, we nicknamed that. But we might just use Genesis. Genesis is the nickname of my Meowscarada that I used in my SV playthrough. Meowscarada is a very fast and strong Pokemon with 123 speed and 110 attack. Also has access to the ability Libero, which basically means the first time, anytime I click a freaking move, that's going to be Stab, and it's going to hit a lot harder than you give it credit for it. However, this Pokemon also has access to the ability Overgrow, which when you pair this with like a Focus Sash, you can actually make really good use of that, in theory, because its main attacking move is going to be its signature move Flower Trick, which always crits. So Flower Trick boosted by, like, let's say Overgrow, yeah, that's going to do a ridiculous amount of damage. Then we also get access to the move Knock Off, which you can use for removing items, and also it's just a very spammable move. It's really strong coming off of this Pokemon. It also gets priority with the move Sucker Punch, which we can use to our advantage. So we have priority on our team, like further priority. We can't use this in Psychic Terrain if Oranguru sets it, but at least we can prevent priority coming into us. Like, for example, Mach Punch or Vacuum Wave that really suck for Meowscarada. Meowscarada also has access to the move Triple Axle, which is really good for dealing with flying types and dragon types that would otherwise give it problems. And last but not least, in case you didn't know this, Meowscarada also gets Trick Room. So if I ever want to use Meowscarada as like a sneaky Trick Room setter, in theory, I could actually do that. Because maybe my opponent doesn't see Oranguru and then they just assume that we don't have Trick Room, and then it's like, boom, Meowscarada has it. But yeah, really looking forward to using this Mon. I think it's a very fast, offensive, and strong Pokemon. Happy to have you on the team. So for this round, I really wanted to get my Fake Out Pokemon, and I actually wanted a Pokemon that, like, even outside of Fake Out, you can still like provide things for the team. Because, like, for example, in a recent league, I had like Meowstic and Raichu as my Fake Out guys, right? Well, let me leave Meowstic out of this because Meowstic is actually pretty useful. Raichu in particular, right? Outside of clicking Fake Out, I felt like the offenses were, you know, kind of underwhelming unless you're like actually hitting something super effectively, which more times than not you're not. With like sure, Volt Switch is a super effective move in a lot of flying types, but it's not like the strongest move either, right? So I realized I really would prefer to maybe have a Fake Out guy who can still be offensively threatening after the Fake Out. So I decided for this round to pick up, because this Mon is very cheap, by the way, and I feel like it's criminally underrated in drafts, so I think it's about time we prove the haters wrong. We decided to pick up none other than San Wukong, the Infernape. That's the name of my shiny Infernape. So Infernape can function as a special or a physical attacker thanks to the fact that it has 104 attack as well as 104 special attack. It also has 108 speed, so it's a pretty fast Pokemon, especially in this limited dex format. So Infernape typically likes to run moves like, for example, Flare Blitz, which is like your physical fighting stab, if you will. But on the fighting side, because it gets fire, it's a firefighting type. So you have Flare Blitz, it's like it's fire stab, but as like fighting stab, you would typically run close combat. However, you do have access to like Aura Spear if you're like afraid of Intimidate, for example, but just click close combat, bro. But Flare Blitz is kind of like, you can kind of dump it because you might want to run Focus Sash on this, in which case you would run Overheat or maybe Flamethrowers, because like mixed Infernape is definitely a thing. As I alluded to earlier, this is my Fake Out Pokemon, so we are going to be clicking Fake Out a lot with this Pokemon. But also this Pokemon also has priority with like Vacuum Wave, I believe, And last but not least, this Pokemon also has spread damage with Earthquake and Rock Slide. So Infernape is basically a full package. You get hard hitting stab moves, you get priority, you get spread moves. Like, this mon is pretty good, and I feel like it's criminally underrated, and I'm very happy to have it on the team. So the way my team is set up, I feel like we need a better way to deal with bulky waters than just relying on Meowscarada. So for this next round, I decided to pick up another mon I feel like is criminally underrated in draft in the form of Bellybolt, the captain. So since we can't have our Raichu as we normally would, I decided Bellybolt would be the very next best thing. Bellybolt is a very, very underrated Pokemon in my opinion. See, the thing about Bellybolt is it's very bulky with 109 HP, 91 defense, and 83 SpDef, so this mon is very hard to remove. And it also has 103 special attack, which means it can actually hit pretty darn hard actually while taking hits. It has abilities Electromorphosis, which boosts its damage output if you hit me, but we also have Static in case somebody wants to hit me with a physical move. So you're always like playing like a dangerous game with Bellybolt. Bellybolt, some moves you would typically see on it, for example, because it is very hard to kill, you might see Parabolic Charge, which basically allows me to heal while attacking. I do hit my partner, but you know, we can play around that, right? Bellybolt also has access to the move Thunderbolt, which is like its main way of doing damage if you don't want to click Parabolic Charge. You can also click Volt Switch for pivoting in and out, as well as Muddy Water, which is going to be boosted by the rain that Pelipper sets. And this Muddy Water has an added chance to lower accuracy. Bellybolt also has access to Weather Ball if you want to just use that instead. And last but not least, we have Soak. So if anything thinks it's safe from Bellybolt, you're actually not, because we can just soak you and next thing you know, you're a water type and you have to deal with us. But yeah, that's Bellybolt. Really happy to have it on the team because I do think this is a very strong offense, like a strong offensive bulky Pokemon. I love that. So for the 7th round, I decided it was probably time to pick up our second Mega. You know, we have the rain mode, so you know what guys, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. So for the second time ever, we have decided to pick up none other than Mega Dragonite, also known as Lovebug, who we are currently using in the MDL, but however we're going to be using it in her in BHDL as well. So a lot of people don't really like Mega Dragonite because it is a special attacker when it Mega Evolves, but I really like it on this team because I feel like Mega Dragonite and Mega Mawile, first of all, defensively, they synergize perfectly. Anything either one of them is weak to, the other one can come in on and resist it or be immune to it. And then also on top of that, the wide range of things these two can hit as a physical attacking Mawile and a special attacking Dragonite is really, really good. In my opinion, I think they're like the best, I feel like these two are in contention for being like the best Mega duo, but a lot of people don't use this combination because they just sleep on Dragonite. So Dragonite typically would like to click things like Draco Meteor, but you also click Dragon Pulse, you know, that's an option. You also get Hurricane, which never misses because of the rain. You also have access to Weather Ball, which you can boost with rain or use it to beat other weathers, like for example, you fight the Sun team, Weather Ball the Venusaur, for example. We also have Heat Wave for spread damage when we're not using rain, and last but not least, we also have Extreme Speed, which I feel like is really good because nothing's going to out-prioritize us, and if we're ever in a situation where, you know, since something lives on a sliver and it might threaten us, oh, just click Extreme Speed. But yeah, that is Dragonite. Really happy to have you on the team. So for the next round, we decided it was about time we got ourselves a redirector, so I got my redirection in the form of Charlotte the Ariados. So this will be my second time having Charlotte. Unfortunately, Charlotte didn't really get to come to any games, but it is what it is. Charlotte has pretty pitiful stats if I'm being real, but I've learned from using it though that if you invest into the bulk, it's actually not half bad. So some moves Charlotte would use are actually Rage Powder, which is how we redirect stuff, which I feel like into my team, there's enough type variants that we can use Rage Powder successfully. It also gets priority with Sucker Punch as well as First Impression, by the way. We get Acid Spray, which we can use to help boost Dragonite's damage output, and we also get Toxic Thread, which we could use to like poison like really bulky Pokemon to help mitigate, basically just to chip them down for like Dragonite or Mawile. We also get Bug Bite, so we can take away and consume other opponents' berries. So Zachmander, your resist berries are not going to work against me. Thank you. We have Electro Web, which we can use to help lower speed, as well as String Shot, which we can use. I feel like String Shot is usually going to be superior, but maybe it's going to be a situation where we need to use Electro Web for some reason. And last but not least, we get Knockoff for utility purposes. Some of you guys are probably thinking this Ariados has the longest section of the whole video, and all I got to say is, guys, it's an Ariados. I have to hype it up somehow. So, as you guys know, I drafted Mega Mawile first. I feel like if you're going to draft Trick Room, you should always have more than one setter, so I decided for the 9th round, I'd pick up my second Trick Room user in the form of Cofagrigus. I've never used Cofagrigus before, so I don't know what to expect from it, if I'm being honest. I know it's a really bulky Pokemon with 145 defense and 105 Split F, as well as 95 special attack, so it's pretty bulky. Like I mentioned, it gets Trick Room, which we're going to be making use of. It gets Will-O-Wisp, which I feel like can be really good because a lot of the strong mons in this meta are physical attackers, so being able to mitigate that damage is really good. We get Shadow Ball as one of our main ways of doing damage. If not, I feel like we can just spam Shadow Ball most of the time. We also get Nightshade to do like consistent damage because this is actually a nichely good move. People just sleep on it in my opinion. And last but not least, we get Ally Switch. So for example, if I have Mawile in the field with Cofagrigus and I'm fearing a close combat into Mawile, I can click Ally Switch, switch places with Mawile. Cofagrigus takes the close combat and Mawile takes whatever hit Cofagrigus was going to take if it was even targeted to begin with. But yeah, that is Cofagrigus. Happy to have you on the team. So for this round, I decided, I really want to get my last Mega. I wanted Mega Gengar, but it got taken, unsurprisingly. So I decided to go with the next best thing, in my opinion, in the form of So to conclude our draft, we decided to pick up none other than Mega Swampert. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over Mega Swampert and its capabilities because I've recently drafted Mega Swampert in another draft league and I did a draft analysis where I talked about it there. So if you want to know what I think about it, please just reference my NBBL draft analysis, but I will go over some brief things about Swampert. Swampert, upon Mega Evolving, gets the ability Swift Swim, which with base 70 speed is really nice. You can just outspeed everything. So we basically have speed control all throughout this team. It also gets it gets bulkier. It goes from 90 defenses to 110, like in both. And you also go from 110 attack to 150 attack. Some moves Swampert would like to click is like Wave Crash or Liquidation. It just really depends on the situation, like what you need to hit. You also get High Horsepower as its main ground move, because you don't want to click Earthquake. However, you might want to sometimes. We do have Dragonite and Pelipper, who I feel like, they're immune. We can just spam it sometimes, depends on the situation. We also get Ice Punch, so we can hit those pesky grass types. And last but not least, we also get Bulk Up as a way of boosting our stats. But yeah, that is Swampert, and yeah, we're at the end of the draft. This is my team. If you don't mind, leave a comment, let me know what you think about the team. I know I'm a yapper, so if you made it this far, thank you for sticking around, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. And yeah, look forward to week 1, and until next time, everybody, peace out.